This is the Assassin's Creed fans have been waiting for, a game set in feudal Japan with the most overhauled stealth in years. Shadows strikes a balance between action and role-playing while reviving the dual protagonist system, with each character offering a distinct playstyle in a massive open world. Last time we broke down Mirage's return to the series' roots, but while Mirage embraced the past, Shadows looks forward, pushing Assassin's Creed into a new era. Yet some key issues hold it back from fully getting there. So what did it get right and where did it completely go wrong? Stealth and parkour have always been at the heart of Assassin's Creed, yet as the RPG era took hold, both became secondary. Mirage was a step in the right path, but Shadows took things in a completely different direction, and in many ways it paid off, but that doesn't mean it got everything right. Despite introducing advanced stealth mechanics like hiding in shadows, crawling underfloor, and sticking to ceiling, which overhauled the level design as well, the game removed social stealth entirely after it had returned in Valhalla and Mirage. With multiple cities in the game, this could have been a perfect opportunity to introduce an advanced social stealth system for Naoe, but unfortunately it never happens. Also, Shadow's dual protagonist system heavily favors Naoe in stealth. As a shinobi, she has more tools and versatility, making her the clear choice for a stealthy approach. Yasuke, on the other hand, can go prone, use a bow for stealth takedowns, and sneak when necessary, but his slow movement and the fact that he yells during stealth kills make him far less viable. Especially if there's an alarm nearby and you haven't taken care of it first, this could cost you your stealth approach. Fortunately for those who don't enjoy the RPG grind, using the guaranteed assassination option makes stealth more reliable from the start, letting you one-hit kill even bosses. So with this option turned on, stealth builds aren't a big concern and the game becomes closer in feeling to the classic titles. But the game's AI is inconsistent. On expert difficulty, enemies are more aware, but sometimes an entire sector of guards will instantly detect you the moment one enemy sees you without even alerting the others. Worse, calling on allies while fully hidden can get you spotted despite no one actually seeing you.
Mitsuyoshi should be held near the Tenchu, inside the living quarters.
And for some reason, getting spotted disables Hidden Blade stealth kills on unaware guards.
This will be quick.
Something that was never an issue in older games. And black box missions are practically non-existent. The closest thing I found was luring the target out by stealing a dog's food, hiding in a box, and assassinating him. That's it. It's baffling that Shadows dials back on black box missions when both Valhalla and Mirage brought them back, but sadly this is just one of many missed opportunities. Then there's a parkour. Shadow's parkour system is still based on Origins, but throws away every improvement Mirage made in favor of flashy animations. Good looking animations are fine, but unlike Unity they lack variety in this game, and worse, the system itself is clunkier than previous entries. Combine that with a world poorly designed for parkour, and Shadows ends up having one of the worst RPG era movement systems possible. Despite the game's large natural environments with surprisingly good verticality, there's no tree parkour like in AC3, making this a huge missed opportunity. Also, ejects are incredibly hit or miss, even in the same spot with a slightly different angle. And climbing simple obstacles can become impossible at times, making parkour feel unresponsive. Finally, add Naoe's sticky parkour to all of that and you'll finally learn why this game's parkour is among the worst. Yasuke's parkour is even worse, slow, clunky, and outright unenjoyable. He can't climb a lot of things, and some areas like a good amount of viewpoints are entirely inaccessible to him, forcing you to switch to Naoe just to climb them with a grappling hook. So this raises the question, why create two distinct characters if the game's mechanics or the design doesn't fully support them? To prevent parkour from feeling completely useless, Ubisoft Quebec added hidden parkour trails. They are linear climbing routes designed to encourage movement, but unlike the dedicated missions in classic ACs where the games tested your parkour skills, these courses lack difficulty or risk, making them feel more like basic traversal rather than true parkour challenges. Then there's the grappling hook. It features a physics-based swing mechanic that lets you build momentum and climb certain structures, but its uses are minimal. Instead of introducing a new movement ability like horizontal wall running, something that was slightly teased in the game's cinematic trailer, it repeats the same mistake as Avalin's whip in Liberation by relying on sparsely placed anchor points to swing. Rather than expanding movement, it ends up feeling like yet another underutilized tool. On top of that, many viewpoints are located in restricted areas. With the grappling hook removing any parkour challenge from these sections, your only real obstacle when climbing them is staying hidden from enemies. Assassin's Creed's combat has steadily improved over the past 8 years, and Shadows takes things even further with a skill-based, challenging and genuinely fun combat system. Each character is limited to certain weapon types, and mechanics like skills, combos, dodges and parries feel more meaningful than before. Their combat styles are completely different. Naoe is more vulnerable in fights and deals lower damage compared to Yasuke, and her arsenal is more limited. Yasuke on the other hand can handle enemies both at a range and in close quarters. He has access to light, heavy and ranged weapon types, deals significantly more damage and even has a few extra tricks up his sleeve. Combat itself is responsive, with each character having unique skills that make them play completely differently. The build system is more refined than in past games, expanding on Odyssey while addressing Valhalla's lack of meaningful playstyles. Shadows also limits active abilities, preventing over-reliance on them. This choice makes combat feel far more tactical and rewarding. The posture system adds even more depth. Both characters can break enemy posture and armor, dealing direct health damage. However, this is the first time Yasuke feels objectively stronger than Naoe in a gameplay sense, and arguably the only time. Even then, some things don't quite add up. The game artificially nerfs Naoe's damage output, forcing her into a stealth role despite being a skilled warrior. Even with a solid build and powerful weapons, it makes you question the game's design intent. Shadows features the most advanced and immersive exploration in the series to date. The game doesn't cover all of Japan, but its handcrafted world is massive, and the 4 seasons completely transform the landscape both aesthetically and sometimes mechanically. The terrain is more vertical, unscalable obstacles are common, and with no bird companion, exploration feels completely different. Unguided exploration has been overhauled. With this option enabled, map icons are gone, forcing you to discover locations manually by sending scouts or using the observe mechanic. Nothing is handed to you, you have to seek it out. The hideout system is the most in-depth in the series. You can place structures anywhere, upgrade their look and function, and bring in people, pets, and items. It's more than just a home. Improving it creates meaningful gameplay changes. While Shadows offers varied side activities, the absence of a dedicated minigame like Valhalla's Orlog feels like a missed opportunity to add even more variety. That said, side tasks reward experience and knowledge, both essential for character progression. Each character has their own unique skill tree, reinforcing their distinct playstyles. The knowledge system blends exploration and progression masterfully, making both feel more rewarding. But one of the game's biggest disappointments is its dungeons. These dungeons offer laughably easy puzzles, usually involving moving objects or blowing things up. They aren't new to the series, but Shadows somehow makes them even worse. If Ubisoft wants to include more puzzle-based content, they need to raise the difficulty so they actually feel like a challenge rather than a waste of time. That brings us to the loot system. Unfortunately, Shadows adopts Odyssey's randomized loot system. Most loot consists of repetitive gear with different perks, and you'll often find oddly misplaced items like a horse skin or even an entire building inside a small chest. Some fixed rewards are placed in predetermined locations, and while the system is better optimized than Odyssey's, the core issue remains. Many players dislike the randomized loot in Odyssey, and its return here doesn't feel much different. And then there's the Battle Pass system. It's free and replaces Reda from past games, but let's be real, this has no place in a single player game. Free, optional or otherwise, it's just embarrassing. Also, instead of rewarding players for completing challenges and uncovering secrets, they lock the best looking gear behind the same store selling cosmetics for real money. This isn't exclusive to Shadows, since Ubisoft has been doing this for years, but stuffing a $70 game with microtransactions at this level is ridiculous. It kills immersion, undermines player agency, and makes both Ubisoft and the game look bad. But by far the worst gameplay system is the character switch mechanic. Not only is it slower than Syndicate, a game made by the same team nearly a decade ago, but it's not even as modern as GTA 5 or Watch Dogs Legion, meaning there's no character animation or even a dialogue when you switch. Worse, if you switch mid-quest, when the game gives you the opportunity, the other character just disappears. Even in moments where they technically should be fighting alongside you, which harms the immersion. It makes you seriously question why this game even needed a dual protagonist approach outside of the story moments. AC Shadow's story embraces a darker tone compared to some of the past games. There are a few lighter moments here and there, but humor is toned down. The writing is a massive improvement over Syndicate, Odyssey, and Mirage. The protagonists feel more developed, with flashbacks that actually build their personalities and some of the strongest character arcs in the past few years. But despite that, Yasuke ends up stealing the spotlight. Also, for the most part, the pacing is solid, a huge step up from Valhalla's dragged out mess. But the second act's non-linear structure is a major issue. In theory, a non-linear approach could add depth, but when it doesn't affect this story in any meaningful way, it makes progression feel random and disconnected. The other acts are much better with a focused and cohesive narrative, but the main chunk of the game feels broken because of this. The objective board replaces the old order list from the previous games. While it helps organize your quests better, the storytelling's weight is almost entirely removed from it, leaving the quests themselves to carry the narrative properly this time. However, as you progress, the list grows so large that it eventually becomes the same bloated mess as in previous entries. Then there are the cutscenes, and this is where Shadows really stumbles. The animation quality is still embarrassingly outdated. Characters move like robots, completely draining the emotion from key moments. To mask the issue, Ubisoft locks cutscenes at 30 FPS and forces letterboxing, a lazy trick to create the illusion of a cinematic experience. But it falls apart when bugs cause facial expressions to break entirely. While the motion captured scenes look fantastic, the rest of the game desperately needed the same level of detail. Also, dialogue choices are meaningless. Aside from recruiting allies, they have no real impact on the story. And even then, recruiting allies doesn't change the ending. There's even a canon mode that disables choices entirely, proving they never mattered in the first place. By the way, if you're playing in English, good luck. While Naoe and Yasuke's voices are fine, most side characters sound downright awful.
Books? What books? You speak madness!
Even major allies deliver lines so poorly that you'll either skip their dialogues or switch to Japanese just to get through it.
My father was not a pirate. How could you accuse a poor, defenseless orphan like me?
The only real fix is enabling immersive mode, which forces everything into Japanese and makes for a far better experience than suffering through the horrendous English voice acting.
I need sake for a grave offering. But my father drank it all.
酒を備えたかったのだが、父上が飲み干してしもうてな。
Before we go any further, I gotta give you a spoiler warning. Skip to the timestamp on screen if you want to avoid major story spoilers. Despite taking place after AC1 and 2, we barely fight the Templars until the very end. The Shinbaku are nothing more than a group of corrupt lords under Templar influence, and the actual Templar list is laughably small. Worse, it's Yasuke, who isn't even an assassin-like protagonist similar to Naoe, who's declaring war on them. The game also seems allergic to calling its protagonists assassins and treats the Assassin vs Templar conflict as little more than background noise, and the series past has been reduced to surface-level nods and literal Easter eggs rather than a driving force in the narrative.
The House of Borgia was one of them. A prominent noble family. They caused a lot of turmoil in Rome. Their thirst for power nearly ruined the city.
Then, just as the story finally gains momentum, it cuts off, clearly setting up DLC for the real conclusion. This is perhaps the worst way they could have handled it, but it actually happened. On top of that, there are no memory corridor confession scenes after assassinations. Even worse, aside from a few minor references, the Isu storyline is practically non-existent. And the Animus Hub is handled oddly. You unlock modern day lore by stabilizing anomalies, but don't expect anything like Valhalla's unique sequences. Just dull random tasks that reward you with data fragments. And to make it even worse, you have to unlock them through the battle pass. But what's surprising to me is that you can completely ignore the Animus Hub and never even realize you missed anything. That's how little the game cares about its own overarching lore. But it's the actual modern day segments that surprised me the most, and not in a positive way. Firstly, don't expect any Desmond era gameplay upon entering Rifts. You just walk around the memory corridor as this unknown figure listening to some dialogue with minimum interaction. And secondly, there's no resolution to Basim's fate after Valhalla's events, which is absurd given how well that game fixed the modern day storyline. But the most painful part is that the modern day story will be updated as new free content is released. This is not how you handle a segment that many people already dislike due to how poorly it has been handled over the past decade. Assassin's Creed Shadows is a solid game but not a great Assassin's Creed title. If you want an RPG AC with better story pacing, refined mechanics, and an incredible world, Shadows delivers. But if you're hoping for a proper parkour, social stealth, and a true return to Assassins vs Templars, this isn't the game. At least not yet. The game constantly dodges Assassin's Creed core themes, reducing them to surface-level nods instead of meaningful ideas. And while the protagonists were designed to appeal to different fanbases, the game ended up favoring one over the other due to design limits. Shadows moves Assassin's Creed forward, but it trips on the same mistakes as its predecessors. The question is, will Ubisoft ever learn? So what do you think? Was this the Japan-based Assassin's Creed game you've been waiting for, or did it disappoint you? Let me know in the comments.